Good day, everyone. So today you and I are going to talk about when you know that you are a professional programmer. So let's get into it. This is a tough one to answer. When do you know that you know how to code for real? When do you know how to program like a professional? When are you ready? When do you know the stuff that you need to know to be able to call yourself a programmer? This is, as I said, this is very, very tricky. And I'll try to answer this to the best of my abilities. Now, let's define some stuff first and foremost. If you know how to write code at all, then technically, yes, you are a programmer. But I'm willing to bet that that's not good enough for you, because my guess is that you're looking for that sensation. It's a sensation that I wanted when I was first starting out. And the sensation is to have this feeling that you have that, I don't know, when the best way I can describe it is that when somebody says, or rather when somebody asks you, are you a programmer? Do you have the sensation that is needed in order to look that person straight in the eye and say, yeah, without anything else, without saying, yeah, but, no buts, no nothing. You just say, yeah. That's what you're looking for. That's my guess. That sensation is what you want. And that is something that is tricky. It is really, really tricky to get that sensation, because in order for you, it's very individual. It's very, very individual. But for me, the way that I achieved it was virtually that I started out as you would. Most people will do this. You start out on your own and you build up an interest, and I got a formal education, and then I started working. Even when I had been working for 6 months professionally, I actually paid work for 6 months. Whenever somebody asked me, are you a programmer? I would say, well, yeah, but I'm just a junior programmer. I would make an excuse. I would somehow try to downplay that I was a programmer, because I didn't feel like a real programmer. And it took me roughly 2 years of professional work and 3 different jobs, roughly. Well, not really 3 jobs, but let's say that I had to work in in a professional capacity over the course of 2 years, and switch jobs once or twice, I think, roughly, in order to get to a point where I actually felt that, yeah, I am a programmer. I may not be the best programmer in the world, I can tell you that much, but I am a programmer. I feel that when other people talk about programmers, I identify with that group now. And that sensation, as I said, is not something that everybody gets just because you know how to write code. And the best thing I can tell you in terms of how to get to a point where you feel that sensation is virtually this. You will start out by learning how to write the syntax, and then you will progress to a point where you know how to write basic software. Mostly very directed instructions are needed in order for you to be able to produce software. In other words, you you need to ask a lot of questions. You need a lot of support, ideally from somebody much more senior than yourself, and you need a lot of time to process things, and most of the time you kind of trial and error until you get the thing right, and you beat yourself up, and then you succeed once or twice and you feel really good about yourself, and this keeps on going and going and going over and over and over until something magical happens. Because when it all starts out, especially when you get your first job, that's why I think that the worst question, and this goes out to the employers out there, The worst question you can ask a completely fresh off the bus junior programmer is, how long do you need to do this? Because they don't know. They don't know. They've never built it before. How can they possibly answer such a dumb question? It's I really hate that question, especially when it comes to a junior programmer. It puts so much pressure on the junior, and I'm talking really junior now. And basically what I'm trying to say here is that you will get that question, and when you will be asked to build certain things depending on what type of programmer you are, but slowly things will start to spiral for you, and that's when you start building this sensation that I'm talking about. That's when you finally get to the end of the sensation of complete insecurity and the unknown, if you will. Because at the beginning of everything, it starts out with that everything is new to you. It's just a linear thing. Every single thing, every day is a new thing. Every day is a new thing, until somebody asks you to build the same thing again, and that's when when it starts circulating. That's when you circle around. Well, you mentally think about it that way, that you start repeating a pattern. And when you start getting to that point when you have enough accumulated knowledge to see a repeating pattern in the things that you are asked to build, that's when you get there. And the only difference when it comes to emotional security and getting to the point where you identify with us programmers in the IT business, between being there and being at that very first repetition in what you're asked to do, is the amount of times you repeat that thing. For me, I had to be asked roughly, as I said, it took roughly 2 years of professional work until I started having enough repetitions, or rather I was asked to build the same thing enough times in order for me to feel that, yeah, I know this stuff. I mean, there's nothing new to me anymore. Or there's always things that are different about every request, but the keel, or the backbone, or the essence of the thing that they're asking you to build is virtually the same thing, with a few differences and so forth. And yeah, think of it as building a house. Almost all of the structure and the foundation and so forth is going to be the same for every house that you build, but the interior decoration will be different, and that's usually just a small part of it all. That's the best way I can describe it. So I would say, or rather I would summarize this little talk of mine by saying that you know that you are a real programmer. As I said, when you can look somebody right in the eye and get that question, are you a programmer, and just answer without making any type of apologies or trying to downplay your own capacity or so forth. And as I said, usually it's very individual, but usually it requires you to start seeing that repetition in the things that you are asked to build. At least it's the way that it worked for me. And hopefully you'll get there very soon. Have a great day.